Sports Illustrated, a new sports book in Colorado, has a $7.5 thousand risk-free bet. New Jersey's making so much freaking money. We just, want to build out hopefully good tools that help people regardless of their sports betting background.
So this afternoon I'm joined by Alex, the co-founder of OddsJam, a new up-and-coming product in the US. Welcome, Alex. If you can just give us a minute or so to introduce yourself, let people know what you're all about and your background.
Yeah, so my name's Alex, co-founder of OddsJam. I previously, worked in trading kind of formally, and when sports betting came to the US, fully on board. I lived on the border of the first two states, Pennsylvania and New Jersey, which regulated and kind of legalized sports betting after the big Supreme Court ruling. So yeah, I wanted to get into the sports betting industry. I'm a software guy, data guy, so create great software that kind of helps people out for once, as opposed to just like a pure, picks company or whatever you call it, more like technology-driven, data-based, software.
Sure. Okay. Well, it's fascinating what's happening in the US now, because obviously over in the UK,
Insane.
the rest of Europe, it's kind of already happened a bit. But you're one of the early adopters, as far as I see it. I've seen OddsJam a couple of months back. Seems like you're growing quite quickly.
Yeah.
And this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this software is based around something that you started to write for yourself when it was legalized a couple of years ago, in order to essentially skin the books and get the best prices, right?
Yeah, 100%. I was working institutionally as I was a prop trader, and like when sports betting came to the US and I saw these, billboards in the US everywhere and all these Facebook ads that were like, FanDuel getting $1,000 risk-free bet or getting $1,000 bonus. I was like, is this a scam or is this actually just free money? And like, are there ways I can take advantage of this? What are these promos? What's profitable? What's not? So I got very deep down the line, and just in terms of like all these promos the books offer and stuff like that, and obviously very excited about it. And that, I would say, led to OddsJam. And I also had, between New Jersey and Pennsylvania, there are about 35 sports books in the US. So there were, a lot of bonuses and such to do.
I know you just mentioned $1,000 there, which to most of my my user base right now, they'll be like, what? Like, because over here we'll get 20 quid, 30 quid, 50 quid tops, maybe a special event, Cheltenham. A couple of years back it was more, and they were giving away maybe 100 or so, something like that.
Sports Illustrated, a new sports book in Colorado, has a $7.5 thousand risk-free bet. Caesars, they recently reduced it to $1,000, but when they entered a few new states, was a $5,000 risk-free bet. $5,000. You lose your first bet, you get back a free bet or like a bonus play, free play, whatever it's called, like depending on terminology. It's a big push, to own the US market, that's for sure.
That's just crazy, and I guess we'll come on to that more in a second, because exchanges haven't really taken off. I don't think in the States yet, like they are over here. But even with arbitrage between sports books, you can still retain sort of 60, maybe 70% even of the bonus on those kind of figures. That's just insane. Like, that's for some people that's life changing if they're sort of driving around and doing different sports books.
Exactly. I completely agree. And I completely agree.
So you've made quite a bit from this yourself, I believe, as well. Is that?
Yeah, the story of OddsJam and just like in general is, I kind of had the mentality like, I think there's money to make here. Like, I felt like, I cared more about sports betting than maybe, anything else in my life when it first entered, and just like, what can we build? And, that maybe is useful to other people, because as every probably profitable sports bettor knows, these large betting sizes, maybe you can get off like $1,000 on some bets, 500. Like, if you're winning, like, they tend to go down just based on the sports books limiting bettors, banning bettors, whatever it is. And I would say, so at some point it was just like, well, I'm limited on most of these sports books. Like, I wonder if there's a product here that can be useful.
Everybody else doesn't have to be limited just because you are,
exactly.
Right? So,
exactly.
But that's just, so actually that brings up an important topic, and I may as well talk about this now. And if people are watching this from the States on YouTube, they should realise this right now from my perspective, from having been in the UK and we've kind of already been through all of this, them limits are going to come down over time. So, you know, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, probably less, given that it's already happened and a lot of the companies that are popping up in the States have already been in the UK.
100%.
They need to exploit them as much as they possibly can, as quickly as they can, because those limits will come down. What are the limits like in the States right now? For like a new account?
I would say a lot of sports books, even if you are limited, like maximum limited, you can still bet like, you know, $50, $25, $80. Like, it's not like you go to zero or like 50 cents on most of these bookmakers. It's more like, you know, you're not going to be able to bet $500 on something, but like you can probably get off 50 on a limited account or 100.
So on a new account though, if they've got like sign up bonuses of $1,000, they must be letting you bet near to $1,000 per bet, right?
100%. They let you bet over $1,000 on basically every bookmaker. When you first sign up, they'll let you bet over $1,000 on anything.
So you just wouldn't get that here. You wouldn't get that here now, and then you'd find maybe, you know, as little as 3-5 bets, depending on how sharp you are and how much value you're taking, they'll bring you right down to sort of like £5 or a quid maximum bet. Obviously pounds in
it's insane, and like it's one of those things where it doesn't, you know, I agree with you, like it maybe doesn't particularly make sense why some of these bet sizes start so high, especially because some of these markets, you know, they're not very liquid, and it's like, you know, if you think about like NBA player props, rebounds for some random player, it's like on a new account, if you wanted to, you could probably get down a few $1,000s at the very least on a new account, which just like, you know, I don't know. Like, it just seems like that is too high to start with. And sportsbooks should maybe like lower it a bit and like, but let bettors bet bigger once they're limited.
I guess that's part of the land grab type stuff that's going on. And also you've got to remember these firms, they're willing to let that happen in some instances because they will pull in these people who, you know, will just bet crazy amounts that, you know, the ordinary kind of person would just not even be able to fathom. So if they put those limits in straight away, they'd probably sort of deter them early on, and they probably want them customers right now.
Yeah.
Particularly in states like New Jersey, right? I mean, wealthy areas.
Exactly. And then, you know, sports betting's launching in New York probably early next year, like very wealthy, at least, you know, in some places, it's definitely, you know.
Well, that's what I was actually thinking of, because don't people come over to New Jersey from New York currently? Because in fact,
not a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so but you don't actually have to live in the state that you're betting, right? You just have to be in it when you place the bets.
100%, exactly. So you get people like, I'm not from New Jersey. I don't have a driver's license in New Jersey, but like I use the New Jersey sports books while in New Jersey. When in Pennsylvania, I use the Pennsylvania sports books. When I've been in Colorado sports books. When in Indiana, on and on.
And you mentioned your driving license there. So what do you need to register an account? And I'm so intrigued because over here they've just really clamped down on everything.
To register an account on a bookmaker, all you need is your name, your email, and the last 4 digits of your, you know, social security number. That's all you need. Literally all you need.
Crazy. So lots of road trips going on to to exploit bookies.
Yeah. Lots of road trips going on to explore the new books, but yeah, I mean, Colorado's insane. Like a lot of these states are very, very, like the influx of bookmakers is just crazy. You get the, you know, Australian bookmakers coming in, the European bookmakers coming in, just like, and then you have the new, you know, kind of like fantasy operators, and then you have some more like startup type operators that enter. In some of these states are much easier to enter than others. Like you see Connecticut, it's very hard. In the U.S., which has legalized sports betting, there's only 3. I think, I'm not sure, but they're only, like some states want to limit the number of bookmakers, and then some states like Colorado are like anyone in the world, it seems like, can come into.
Right, and then they've got different tax rates on some of them as well, I believe, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting. So, because my first, sort of when I had a little look at the state stuff when it first got legalized, was like, what's going to happen with exchanges over there? Now, I think we've got, am I right in saying there's 3 or 4 that are sort of in the early stages?
There's a lot in the very early stages.
I take
not very early, but yeah.
Sorry, I take it you've not got feeds for them on OddsJam yet. So OddsJam's
I,
typically.
when they, I think when they grow their presence and, the importance to like maybe like our users increases, we'll be there. But at this point, we don't.
Sure, sure. Well, I mean that's got the potential to make the whole marketplace a lot more efficient. Like so, because
For sure.
it'd be interesting to see how the sportsbooks react. I guess it would probably be very similar to over here. But the difference over there would be, I guess, the liquidity between the different states because you've got so many different states and different laws. And then,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's kind of like almost a bit problematic.
Yeah. And, it's also hard to compete with the marketing budget of DraftKings.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But like, I mean, I'm thinking in terms of liquidity more on the actual
Oh, for
exchange.
sure.
Sorry. Um,
Yeah. For the sharp bettors, for like, the kind of mathematical bettors, I think it'll be great. And for the, we'll see kind of like I'm not even sure how big exchanges are like in terms of the average bettor, like not like the super serious guy who maybe does it like, very seriously with the goal of making money, but for like the everyday bettor, I'm not what is that like in.
Well, it's a small segment. It sort of like exploded in growth in the early sort of 2000s, and people realised that they get better prices. But I think over time, kind of like the sports books and their massive budgets, like you say with FanDuel and stuff like that, they sort of have bared down on it quite a bit and sort of kept it where it is. The problem for a lot of exchanges in the UK and Europe, I think, is the interface typically, because it's a lot more complex for like your average user who just wants to have a bet. But I'm led to believe that like the likes of maybe Sport Trade and that they're trying to make it simpler, more like your Robinhood, because Robinhood's quite big in the States, or it's bigger is over here.
It's massive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, ultimately, it all comes down to liquidity at the end of the day.
100. Yeah, exactly. And I think like I look at Betfair sometimes just like out of interest or to see what they, have on a given game or team. It's like, sometimes that market is very, very tight and there's a lot of action. You can get great prices, but other times it's like
Yeah,
non-existent,
and it's just
right?
low liquidity. So like like your side markets, like you were mentioning before. So like correct score and football over here, something like that
Exactly.
might not be brilliant. But I think
And
part of
parlays,
that is.
like Americans at least love our parlays and like they're very well marketed, like same game parlays, like like what are the odds this team wins and the game goes over this points and Patrick Mahomes throws over, 250 passing yards. Like those are, I've never seen something more marketed right now than a same game parlay on sports books. I assume the juice is just like absurd. I mean, it is absurd, but like the promos that come in with like place a parlay, you get this, place a parlay, you get this. Like a lot of the marketing is geared at everyone place parlays. Yeah, it's
Well,
very
that's where they get
interesting.
the
Same.
best margins as well, right?
What?
That's where they get the best margins as well.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It makes sense, but it is interesting, like the aggressiveness maybe of like parlay based marketing, not like sports betting, but also just like parlays, like place your parlays.
got yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it sucks in the people that they want rather than, which is probably less likely to be sharps that are using products like OddsJam, and looking for price discrepancies and stuff like that, the actual value.
100%.
But I think the other problem over here in the UK with the likes of Betfair and the exchange, it was growing at such a rate at one point. But I think that they realised internally, well, they created a sports book. They didn't have a sports book initially. They just had an exchange, and they almost like started competing with themselves. They're like, well, we can just repurpose these customers to this product and give them parlays and stuff like
Yeah.
that and
We
take
have
off.
Betfair sportsbook odds on OddsJam,
Okay.
not exchange, but maybe someday.
Well, we'll see how it goes. It'd be interesting to see if I suspect it'll probably be quite similar to what's happened over here. They'll realise, where's the money at the end of the day. And
For
it'd be
sure.
interesting to see if Sport Trade or someone like that does it differently. So overall, I mean, I suppose we've already spoke about that a little bit, but how do you see it sort of developing over the next few years in the States? Do you think a lot will change, or it's just going to be there's going to be a lot more of people?
I think, like sports betting is no longer in a small fraction of the US. Like we haven't gotten a lot of the name brand states like California or New York. But I mean, like 30%, I would say, of Americans have access to at least, some states, I believe, like Louisiana, they only have one operator, one sports book. It's very weird, right? In the U.S., how that works on a state-by-state basis, where you have some states like Colorado with 25, some with one. But I mean, New Jersey's making so much freaking money. Like, you see New York getting in. California said, yeah, we're probably going to come in and, 2022. And it's kind of just like, it seems like it's just slowly but surely. Maryland's coming in next year. So we're like dealing with the registrations there right now. It just kind of seems like it's slowly but surely hitting a new state all the time. Like, I remember when Arizona launched, I wasn't even aware Arizona was going to launch sports betting. And one day it was just like, saw a few articles and it's like sports betting's now in Arizona. And it's some of these things, some of these states go very quick once it's on the agenda, and they'll just like legalize it and it's there. So yeah, my assumption is, except for maybe a few certain states, we'll just kind of see it trickle throughout the rest of the U.S.
Yeah, still quite early on, I think. So
Yeah.
From OddsJam's perspective, are you concerned that like these sort of restrictions are gonna come in, or they maybe might limit your feeds? How are you looking to sort of develop are you just looking to keep it as is, like sharps, arbitrage, value betting, and I guess you might not have the term match betting in the States, but
I would say like we just want to build valuable things, and like people's bankrolls, people's, like both me and my co-founder, we're, technologists, like we're Silicon Valley guys. We just want to build things that people want, and like we'll kind of follow feedback and market and stuff like that. And we just want to produce the content, either informative, fun, whatever it is. We just, want to build out hopefully good tools that help people regardless of their sports betting background. Like some people like yourself, probably so much experience in this, like a lot of the stuff on OddsJam, it's like, yeah, this is obvious, but some people are coming in at a much lower level, and we, want to try to cater to a bunch of different segments of the market.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. You just said they're informative or fun, and it's like there seems to be such a gap between the two.
For sure.
It's winning people round to that way of thinking, but then really, like, the idea of maybe taking 3% out of a bet consistently, instead of trying to sort of what is marketed with the parlays and stuff like that, or an accumulators over here as we have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because gambling's fun, like gambling's added joy to my life. I'm sure it's added joy to your life. Is like gambling's meant to be fun. And obviously, there are downsides to gambling. And if you're just betting $25 on, NFL football every weekend, and you're not betting in a sharp way, like, and it makes your day better, like, it's worth it. Whatever, if you're paying 15% juice on your parlay or 20%, like, it's $25. But like, yeah, I would say like that's the larger, maybe like segment of the audience.
Oh, 100%. I mean, each to their own, but I think winning's more fun than anything, to be honest.
For sure. I feel you there.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So I guess I'll keep an eye on OddsJam going into the future, Alex. It's definitely one that's come up on my radar quite quickly, and I don't think you've really got any competition at this point in time. So all power to you on that one. But thanks for coming on. Unless there's anything else you want to add for people that might be watching, then thanks for coming.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.